Tikam, can we start? So, good afternoon and very warm welcome to all the participants joining us today for the next webinar in the product management series that we are doing. And today we have with us a very good friend and a very long-time friend, Ramesh Swaminathan, who's the director who heads Informatica in Hyderabad, and is also the kind of director of product management at Informatica. And Ramesh has been very instrumental in starting the Hyderabad Product Leaders Forum. I still remember the early conversations we had when I was still in the industry before I moved to academics, when they all, as a group of product managers from different product companies, were having informal meetups, and then like they reached out to me also to join because we were also a product company. And then I was so impressed that I kind of nudged them, encouraged them to kind of increase the whole canvas of activities. And HPL like did annual events for a few years, a very large product management conference. Did a lot of monthly meetups in different offices, discussing topics of specific relevance. The same group did a lot of work around Agile, though not as HPL, but pretty much the same group did a lot of work around Agile adoption in 12, 13, 14, 15, those years. And of course, pandemic has played a little bit of a spoil sport, but I think the group is coming together again and now reviving the activities. So Ramesh has the industry hat, being in the tech product space for a very long time. Before Informatica was with OpenText, and then like other product companies before that, Vignette and such. On one side, and on the other side has been very active in the community. So Ramesh, thank you so much for joining us today. So we will just have, Ramesh has some initial thoughts to share. It's more an interactive session. And so Ramesh will share his initial thoughts over the next 20-30 minutes, and then we'll just have a Q&A. I will be here anyway. I will make sure the floor is not quiet. If there are no questions, I have enough set of questions of my own. So Ramesh will get started. Ramesh, we're all yours. And just before that, again, this program is happening as part of the MTech in Product Design and Management. Ramesh is also a faculty in that program. We felt we've been looking at a lot on creating product sort of research over the years. And there are design programs in design schools which are focused completely on design. And then there are product programs in business schools which is focused more on business. There's nothing that does the convergence of a product is at the end of the day, convergence of technology, design, and business all together forms a product, a successful product. So we want to create an MTech program, not a design program and not an MBA program, an MTech program in product design and product design and management. So we started, the first cohort started in December. The second batch is starting in August. So this is happening as part of that series. So myself, Professor Raghu Reddy, who's also here, and Ramesh were all part of that initiative. So with that not so brief introduction, Ramesh, we're all yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Ramesh. Thanks for giving it. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ramesh. Thanks for the brief introduction and the opportunity to do this webinar and interact with a lot of folks who are practicing product managers, who aspire to be product managers. It's always a pleasure to talk to the community, to nurture the community. I have been doing a product manager role for about 20 years plus. As somebody says, once a product manager, always a product manager. So I will share my thoughts, my experience being a product manager for the first 20-25 minutes, and then we will keep it interactive. You can ask questions. You can go ahead and use the Q&A button to ask your questions, and we will share our thoughts. Right. So basically, who is a product manager, right? To actually to start off, right? Product manager is a very key role in a product company, and he owns product strategy. He or she owns product strategy, roadmap, execution, right? He drives the business planning process. He drives the go-to-market process to actually create products. He works with the engineering team to explain, document use cases, requirements, user stories based on whatever is the product development methodology that is followed within an organization. But that's only one side of things. And the other side of things is he's also coordinating with various users in the system, people who are going to use the product, get their feedback, understand their pain points, and design products that people love, right? For me, the underlying role of a product manager is understand market, understand users who are going to use the product, and create products that users love and can adopt. That's critical for a product manager to go in and do, right? And to come back to what we were talking about today's webinar, right? So when you are doing a role of a product manager, you will actually see, various life cycles of a software product, right? Because there are some products which have been in the market for 20 plus years. I mean, you could be a product manager for a product that is really mature, while you could be a product manager for a product that's just starting out. You're just launching a new product. It could be any service. It could be a consumer-based product. It could be a B2B kind of a product where the product is for businesses, which is running some kind of a business and helping some services, or you could be providing a service yourself, right? For example, you could be creating a mobile app. You could be the Facebook, which is a consumer facing app, or you could be building something like a Salesforce, which is basically a B2B solution, which is being used by various businesses and users, people working in those business. So there could be various kinds of products that you are developing, but a typical software product goes through what I call four distinct life cycle stages. One is an introduction stage, and in every stage, a product manager has a very critical role. You could be joining an organization as a product manager for products in any of these growth stages, but it's very important for you to know, as you join a company as a product manager, what stage the product is in, and depending on what stage the product is in, your role as a product manager in those product companies could differ, right? Or you could even be a startup founder. I mean, even if you're a startup founder, it's the same thing. You're launching a product, right? So there's an introductory phase where you're doing a product launch, right? When you're doing a product launch, there's a lot of thought process that goes into identifying needs in the market, creating solutions that actually solve those needs, create some kind of do prototyping, identifying what is a minimum viable product, develop that product, get feedback on the product. So that's what you do as a product manager when you're launching a product, right? That's the beginning stage. And once you have launched that product, you have achieved a minimum viable product, you go to the next stage, which is sort of a growth stage. That's where you are actually starting to make money, right? That's where you have identified a product market fit. What is a product market fit? A product market fit is a point in time where you have identified that you have created a product, and the product has got to a point where it has got to that kind of a sweet spot where there is a fit between what the market needs and what your product does, right? Once you get to that sweet spot, that's where you start expanding and growing your product. That's where you start making money. That's where you getting a lot of new customers. You expand to newer markets. You start scaling the product, scaling your business. Like scaling a product is one, scaling a business is different, because once you have created a product, you have to create all the peripheral services around that business, right? You need to have a marketing team, you need to have a finance team, you need to have a fulfillment team, you need to have a customer support team. So you start scaling the business, you start scaling the product. So that's when you are focusing on, when the product is in the growth stage. And once you have gone through the growth stage, there is you get to a level where it's maturity, right? The time it takes for a product to go from introduction to growth to maturity, that could vary across organization, it could vary across industry, it could vary across the product type. Some of the products could reach growth stage very quickly, some of the products may take a lot of time to reach the growth stage, and from growth to maturity it could take 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you never know, right? But then once it has achieved the growth stage, when everything is great, you get to a plateau point where the product matures, right? And that's where we call some of these products as cash cows, right? Wherein a lot of customers, you have got a lot of customers who are using this product. And then your role as a product manager, there your focus changes, right? There your focus is now, how do I retain the market share? How do I sustain this product? How do I ensure that this product stays at the maturity level for a longer period of time? The longer period of time a product stays at the maturity level, you are making more money with the product, right? And at this point, it is important that you still continue to have your ears on the ground. You ensure that your customers are successful, because your customers have been using a product for a longer period of time. They might start looking for alternatives. So ensure that the customer continues to be happy with your products, and work with your customers on that, right? And every product will eventually reach a stage where it starts going down the curve, right? That's where you have to get to a point where you have to think about retiring the products. There is always a lot of people who don't like to be product managers in products that are declining, because they think it's not they think it's not important for the company, it is not strategic for the company because the product is declining. Enterprises are thinking about retiring products, but that's a very, very critical role from a product management perspective. You being able to go through the experience of retiring products is very critical for you to understand the role of a product manager. And from an organizational perspective, if you're a product manager who is working on a product that needs to be retired, your role is very key, right? Because the importance is you have to continue to help those customers. You have to continue to retain those customers. And that's where your role as a product manager is important, because the expectation is you understand the market well, you know enough about the market that you can retire the product, maybe provide alternatives to customers. Maybe it's a different new modern product that you're developing within your organization, and move your customers from your old product that is getting retired to a newer product, or even extend the product to newer use cases, right? Because there's a lot of ways in which you can say that, hey, okay, I have lived this life cycle of a product. Now I want to go to the next level. I want to extend this use case. So maybe I see those extension points where the product usage can be extended to different use cases. You could identify different use cases and start using the product for that. Maybe add new features, extend it for an X new feature that you are developing for a particular feature, right? So I will answer the questions later. So very clear that for you, when you get into a product, if you are a product manager getting into the role of a product management role in an enterprise, look for this, identify what kind of where the product is in a life cycle, right? I mean, it is okay to ask these questions even to the interviewer, right? If you are getting interviewed in a product management role, what product I'm going to get into, right? And what is the stage that the product is in? What software product lifecycle stage the product is in? Is it a mature product, growth product? And your role would evolve, right, as this, right? So the S curve is something product managers are used to talking about, right? If you talk to any practicing product manager, he will talk about an S curve, right? And this is the kind of an S curve that you will see as part of product life cycle, right? During the introductory phase, the sales is pretty low. right? The cost of acquiring customer is very high. The dollar cost, the amount of money you're spending to acquire a single customer is very high, because it's sort of you are pretty new in the market. You are trying to understand the market. You're trying to get a foothold in the market, right? And then getting to a set of customers who are ready to work with you on this particular journey is difficult, right? So a customer acquisition is very difficult. Customer success is very difficult, right? You're spending more money than what you're earning, but you get to work with a set of customers who are innovative, right? Who are ready to try out new things with you, and the competition is also sort of pretty low, because you're starting out, and when you are starting out, you start out in a market where the market itself might sometimes could not be matured, and so the competition is less, right? Now, as you go to the growth stage, your sales increases. You're getting more money now. You're getting more customers. Your cost per customer is going down, because your R&D costs remain constant or go down as the product becomes mature in the life cycle, right? Because the profits are increasing, but as the profits are increasing, you will see that there are other competitors who are copying you, or have understood that there is a market for this kind of products, and are bringing in new products into the market. And and when it goes to the maturity stage, the sales of the product continues to rise. I mean, you continue to have a plateau wherein you have achieved the peak at the cost, but I mean the acquisition cost of a customer is pretty low, because your investments on the products have gone down, the number of customers have gone up, you are getting good products. It sort of becomes a mass market product, right? Because for example, when Salesforce started out, they started out with like 10 customers, right? Today, it's a mass market product. You don't even go through a very large sales cycle for acquiring Salesforce. Now you just go click. So there are a lot of people who click on a button, use their credit card, start using Salesforce, right? So that's how you get to a maturity where you know the product very well, and there is lots of knowledge about the product, and then once you have that, you have created a market, and so there's a lot more competition in this space. And there's always a point in time when the usage of the products will start going down. The reasons are plenty. One of the reasons could be that that there is newer technologies that have come up. The market needs have changed, so people are moving to newer product. I mean, the typical example of those days would be, right, people using I mean Oracle. I mean, actually, Siebel, and Oracle acquired Siebel for your CRM, and I don't think a lot of people buy Siebel these days, right? I mean, the product is stable, the product is still being used by some customers, but eventually people have moved to using newer technologies, cloud-based technologies like Salesforce, because I'm giving a Salesforce example. I'm continuing with that, right? People have moved from using Siebel to using Salesforce today. So that's a change, right? The way businesses run has changed. People now need newer ways of interacting with solutions, and there was a natural path where people moved on, right? So the sales go down. We are not spending a lot of money on the customer, so the cost is going down. The profits are less, right? And this is where you will see that the market is declining, right? The market size could be declining, your market share could be declining. That's where you know that, hey, this is happening, and you have to start taking corrective action, right? What could be a corrective action, right? The corrective action could be like you create another S-curve, right? You could start off by creating S-curve, right? So you start with a early business, you grow, you mature, right? And then it starts dwindling, your market share, your products start dwindling. And this is very critical from a product management perspective. That's where you identify ways in which you can transform that business, ways in which you can change that market for that business, right? For example, Apple quickly moved from the iPod business to an iPhone business. So they have now shut down their iPod business at this point. They don't make any iPods anymore. But when they started out the business, they started out as a handheld device for sharing music, and they quickly pivoted, and they saw that the business did grow. Everybody bought an iPod. It was one of the greatest device that we saw in the market at that point in time. The way we were sharing music, the way we were listening music just changed with an iPod. But then Apple quickly realized that I do have an adjacency market, which is a new market because of the technology growth at that point in time. And they quickly understood that and transformed that business to an iPhone business, right? And we know that that business is strong now. It's matured year after year. They are launching new products which with incremental new features, and people are continuing to buy it. But Apple definitely knows that that's a market that has matured. They are in the peak of that of the test curve, and they know they have to pivot, and they have to pivot to doing something else. The business will eventually start to decline, and they will have to create innovation. They will have to pivot their product. They'll have to pivot their business to do something else. So that's how organizations grow. As you transform the business, as you identify newer use cases, and a product manager is a very critical part of that particular transformation as you grow. Right. And I will stop with this slide. So I've been talking for about 20 minutes now. Basically, what is a product manager role in each stage, right? I mean, in the introductory stage, you are identifying needs in the market. You are generating demand. You are sort of creating awareness. You are doing research to identify what are the needs. The research could be multiple, right? You're doing market research, you are doing user research. You could have created a prototype. Your company could have created a prototype. So you are launching the prototype into the market. You are getting feedback, and your focus is on getting to the product market fit. You have not achieved the product market fit yet, but your focus is on achieving that product market fit as the product has been introduced, and you're trying to ensure that there is a fit between what the market needs and what you are introducing into the market. And when you get into the growth phase, you both have external facing role and an internal facing role. In an external facing role, as the product grows, you have an eye on competition. You are trying to do competitive analysis to see how competition is responding to your product. You are also, from an internal facing perspective, you are doing feature prioritization to drive adoption. This is where you need to be very quick in doing a lot of in introducing new features to drive adoption of the product. You have to keep up with your customers' needs, with your competition, right? And this is where things like growth hacking you do, right? How do you grow faster? What are the things that you can do to grow your business faster? I mean, that's where you have to be really active in terms of identifying possible areas of growth and growing, and ensuring that your customers are happy, right? And when the product reaches maturity, you start looking at it differently. You start looking at how can you create differentiation in the product, right? I mean, you're not doing a lot of R&D investments here because you've already done you've spent a lot of money in maturing the product. Your customers are liking it. You're still using the product, right? And now you start looking at how do you retain these customers, right? How do you ensure that the customer remains successful? He's not moving to a different products, right? How are you maximizing the return on investments that you have done? So that's where you are constantly talking to your large customer base. You are getting feedback from them. You are prioritizing customer needs as product features, getting feedback from customers, and continuing to ensure that you get a steady return on your investments. And then in the decline phase, you're looking at end of life processes. You're looking at how can you get to a point where you are sunsetting a product. How do you communicate? How talking to your customers on the communication, because when you're sunsetting a product, there is lot of other levers that needs to be looked at. Your competition would try to take benefit out of you sunsetting a product. How do you look at that? How do you respond to that? Do market research, very active market research, understand markets to see how you can pivot the product to newer areas, newer growth areas. We always do that. Right? Products continue to live on. For example, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Word has been there for how long, right? I mean, as long as I have been working in this profession as a product manager, I've been using Word and Excel, right? But they have pivoted a lot. I mean, I was using Word earlier for typing in, creating documents. I still use Word for creating documents. But then it went through a process. It went through a S curve. I'm sure it started off small. They grew because that was the only product. Now there are various competitive products, but they pivoted too from being a Word document that was lying in my desktop, right, as the whole world moved towards cloud computing. Now I have Word in the cloud, right? I don't even have to buy Word and install Word. I can go to SharePoint. I can on demand use Office 365. It's all available online, and I use products. And so they have pivoted from being a tool that is installed in, as it comes as part of my OS, as part of my installation. Now they have pivoted to being a cloud product, and their growth has expanded much more. So that was their second or a third S curve that they got to, where they transformed their business from being basically a desktop-based tool to becoming a cloud-based tool, right? So being able to pivot that is very important, to able to understand the technology advancements, to understand the customer needs at that given point in time, or sometimes to even define the market yourself, right? Create a new market for yourself. So that's where a product manager comes in and plays a very critical role. And again, the skill sets remain the same, irrespective of where you are working on and what stage of the product you are working on. Your skill sets continue to remain the same. You still continue to have great communication skills. You need to understand you need to understand technology if you are in the software space, right? You need not be a coder yourself, but for you to understand technology and how technology works, and the various technology advancements that's happening in the industry is something that you need to know. Business intelligence, understanding business, research skills, analytical skills, interpersonal skills, marketing skills, all these are as you have some of these management skills, is something that you continue to have for being a very successful product manager, right? A strategic thinking, prioritization of things that you should be good at. I'll stop here. I know I've been speaking for more than 30 minutes, and we'll go back to answering questions that have come up on Q&A and chat, and go on from there.
Thank you, Ramesh. It's a very good overview. I'm sure there are some comments and questions, but before we get to that, quickly, can you compare product management in a very large company like Informatica or any of the other product companies, and product management for a software for a startup? What are some key differences? At the end of the day, product is a product. It has to succeed in the market. Customers have to use it, like it, right? Regardless of a startup or a large company. But still, what are some key differences you see product management in a startup and product management in a large company?
Sure. So from a processes perspective, skill set perspectives, it's the same. I don't see a difference, right? But where the difference, a key difference that comes in is in a large enterprise, you do have resources to do various stuff, and you do have various people with skill sets that you can work with. For example, if I'm working if I'm working at Informatica, right, as a product manager, I have various other resources that I can tap into, right? For example, I have access to, for doing market research, for example, right? I have access to Gartner reports. I can go to a Gartner analyst because we do have kind of a paid engagement with an analyst, right? So I can go to these analysts for giving me information about the market, right? To understand market trends. While at a startup, you don't have that. You will have to do your research yourself, right? I'm not sure how many startups can afford to, subscribe to Gartners and Foresters of the world, but you will have to do research yourself, right? That's one. The second part is, right, again, reaching out to customers, getting data about how your product is being used, right? All that is something in a larger company, you have processes in place for getting you that information. While you are a startup, you have to be much more grounded. You'll have to do a lot of groundwork yourself in terms of getting all this information. That's something that you do. The other piece, I mean, the pro of this is, if you are a product manager in a startup, you actually get to experience all this yourself. I had a unique opportunity to be a product manager in a startup early on in my career, and I think that helped me, because that actually helped me to do things that I could have never done in a large enterprise. Because in large enterprises, you have people and processes in place that do things for you. So if you have to get some information, I request somebody, and somebody is going to do that work for me and give back that information to me. But in a startup, you do everything, and when you start doing a lot of this work, you gain experience, you have control, and you gain experience. So those are the three things that I think are different. But otherwise, the core skill sets remain the same. The kind of work that you continues to remain the same.
Sure, makes a lot of sense. There's a question from Sahiti. Product, she says project managers, but I'm assuming it's product managers. Do product managers need technical skills?
I would say yes and no. Yes, if you are in the product space, I'm not sure what she means by technical skill, but you need to understand technology. The reason that we had a whole class on this in the PDM course where we discussed this. So basically, you need to understand technology to be able to take, at some points in time, decisions on where you need to take your product. Sometimes you need to know technology to take benefit of the technology, so that you can create creative new products and solutions based on the new technological developments that's happening. So being able to understand technology, how technology works, and how technology can impact a product is something that you need to know. But do you have to know coding? You need to be hands-on and write a piece of code, write a SQL query. Maybe that's not required. I mean, if you come with that background, that's great too. I mean, if you have been a developer and you want to move into product management, I have seen a lot of people moving from QA roles to product management, because they are at a cusp where they understand technology, they understand functionality. So it's very easy for them to move to product management roles from QA roles. Having technology knowledge is always great, but it's not a prerequisite for you to be a coder. You might never code as a product manager in your career. You might never want to write a piece of code. I mean, at some odd instances I have had where I had to write a SQL query to get some information out. That's the max that I have done in my career in writing code. So you don't have to be a coder developer, but understanding technology is important. You might come from an MBA background, from a business management background. I came from a business management background, and then you could learn technology. I mean, technology. If you live in the world for a year or two, you will definitely learn technology. So that would be my answer.
No, absolutely. I think, like, especially for technology products, you're right. While the knowledge need not be at the level of being able to go write code, you still need to understand technology, appreciate technology, appreciate some of the complexities to be able to engage in a meaningful conversation with the engineering groups. And absolutely, in many companies, product managers come from a tech background, because product management at the end of the day is a creative function. You have to connect the dots. So come from technology, come from business side. Both ways at the end of the day to connect the business and technology dots anyway. So, but yes, an appreciation helps. There's another question that says, is domain knowledge needed for product managers?
I don't think you need a domain knowledge to get into a product management role, but once you are in that role, you absolutely need to have the domain knowledge. You have to gain that knowledge. When I'm recruiting a product manager, if I get a product, it's always, I mean, this is always a discussion that I have with my boss when we are recruiting people, right? Do I get people with domain knowledge or do I get product managers? Because being able to mix and match them together, getting PMs with a specific domain skill is very difficult from an enterprise perspective. It's very difficult to get that kind of people, right? As a product manager, you need to understand the domain. That is a given, right? For getting into the product manager role, it's okay that you don't know that domain. If you have product management skills, you will get hired into a particular role. But once you have got into that role, it's very important that you gain this domain knowledge, because if you don't know the domain, you are not going to be a successful product manager. Then you become somebody who is a document writer. You become somebody who is like a proxy who is talking to engineering teams and sales teams. As product manager, guys, which is very important to understand, whatever role you are in, whatever be the designation you get in an organization, you could be an associate product manager, junior product manager, senior product manager, principal product manager, director, senior director, VP, whatever be the role that you get, you are at the end of the day a product manager, right? And as a product manager, you are the guru of your product. And for that's what that's how the external world is looking at you as. And when you say you are a guru of the product, that means that you understand the domain, you understand the market that you are in, and you have created products that solve problems in that particular domain. So yes, you need to know domain knowledge. You need to quickly acquire the domain knowledge. It's very important that you have acquired that very quickly. You become a successful product manager if you acquire the domain knowledge. The quicker, the faster you acquire the domain knowledge, you become a better product manager. But when organizations are hiring for product managers, they are not looking at people with specific domain skills, right? It's a plus if we get, but we are not people are hiring managers are not looking at people with domain skills to acquire product managers. They expect product managers to be a very fast learner and acquire domain knowledge quickly. Ramesh, you should know, if you have been in this business long enough.
Absolutely. See, I think what we don't, most people don't appreciate is like, see, at the end of the day, unlike a project where somebody has defined what to build, a product company kind of assumes, meaning based on the market, reads into the market and defines what to build. Right. And so that empathy and connect with the customers and the market is very important. If you don't understand the domains, how do you connect with the market? So absolutely, they need to pick up the domain. While yes, it's at the end of the day a creative exercise in trying to understand and say, okay, this is the requirement, this can be a solution. So these are often not a very simple direct fit. You have to understand, and then you have to extend what you have. So it's a. I always say product management is a creative process, right? It's connecting the dots, a very creative process. To make some of these estimations. There's often I see this confusion between, there's some comments on advocacy and such, product marketing and product management. Can you just quickly touch upon the difference between product marketing and product management?
Absolutely, right. I mean, product marketing is a completely different function from a product management function. A product manager is a product marketing manager is evangelizing your product. Some organizations do not have these roles, but most organizations today have come to a point where they realize that a product marketing manager is very different from a product manager. A product manager owns the product, a product marketing manager owns the market. So what that effectively means is a product marketing manager can provide inputs to a product manager on the market, but the role of a product marketing manager is more on the messaging, on the communication of the marketing message, creating processes within an organization where you start creating demand for the product. Creating those pipeline development is one of the key metrics that a product marketing manager is assessed on, is creating pipelines, right? Creating basically demand for the product that is being developed. A product manager owns the product, he creates the products, he defines what needs to be built in the product and how the product needs to be positioned, while the product marketing manager is actually doing the positioning. The product manager is actually doing the three P's of marketing, right? He's actually doing the pricing, he's actually doing the positioning, he's doing the packaging. So those are parts which a product marketing manager is doing. He's understanding the market, he's evangelizing, he's working with the salespeople to ensure to push a product into the market, understanding what are the problems that a sales guy is dealing with and trying to fix those, and evangelizing the product in terms of creating the demand for the product. So that's very different from what a product manager does, who is understanding the market and creating products for that market.
No, absolutely. I think product manager is more before the product hits the market. You're defining what to build and why and such. And product marketing is after the product's already there. They figure out how to take it to market and do all the required stuff. And absolutely. There's another question again while talking about roles before moving on to the next question. Product owner and product manager, what's the difference?
A product owner is a role. Product owner is a role which came into being because of the agile methodologies and the process and the agile development process that we started adopting, say, a decade ago. And a product owner role today in organizations is an internal facing role. Basically, what a product owner does is a product owner in most companies is part of an engineering organization, while product managers is part of the, sometimes it's part of the R&D organization, sometimes it's a separate department in itself in organizations. A product owner works with the engineering team to develop the product, right? It is where he's defining, he's elaborating on the requirements defined by a product manager. In some organizations, like in our organization, we don't have a separate product owner role. A product manager does a product owner's role too, where he's working with the engineering team in helping engineering and the developers and QA understand what needs to be built. He validates what is being built by the R&D teams. He's working closely on a day-to-day basis. He plays the agile role of a product owner, where he's defining requirements, writing those user stories, ensuring that the right user stories are prioritized for a given release, for a given sprint. So that's what a product owner does. While a product manager as a role does much more. He's trying to identify needs, he's trying to define roadmap, he's trying to prioritize requirements at a higher level, and ensure that the product strategy is executed, right? That's what is the difference between a product owner and a product manager. Some organizations have product owners because if it's a very complex product, they would like to have product owners who are working closely with the R&D teams, while the product manager is talking to the business, he's talking to the customers, he's working on executing strategy.
Yeah, it's a common model. You have a small product management team that's owning the strategy and the overall directions. And then a lead engineer or an architect or sometimes development manager plays the roles of product owners who are the bridge between the product management and the team. And then there are other companies, like you said, there's a very large group of product managers. So there are junior product managers that are part of a dev team, 15, 20 member dev team, and play the product owner role. So they're both, you're right. I mean, like some have the product managers playing the role, in other places, there are others playing the role in conjunction with a smaller product management team. There's one question on B2B and B2C. Is there any difference in how product management works?
I don't think so. I mean, it's the role, the product manager, the skill sets, the process that you go through remains the same, whether it is a B2C product or a B2B product. The only difference between a B2C product and a B2B product, in B2C products, you would see a faster release cycles where there are new features pushed to market faster in B2C products, because most B2C products today are, I mean, all products are SaaS based, but B2C products are much more adopted in the cloud. For example, Facebook releases new features almost every day. I mean, every week they have a release train, which is like daily, weekly, monthly, and some features you don't even see, some features you see. So the only difference in a B2C market is you get customer feedback very fast, in the sense that the consumption of a feature is a very good index of how a product is being used, how a feature is being used, so that you can pivot faster. While in a B2B market, adoption of newer features is going to take some time, and you need to work with your customers. The number of people who are using your product in a B2C market will be much more than the number of users using your product in a B2B market. So you get to do lot more. You get lots more data about consumption in a B2C market than from a B2B market. But your role as a product manager sort of remains the same. That does not change.
So another question, how does MBA person differ from a product management person? I don't know what the question exactly is, but let me rephrase the question. Is MBA required to be a good product manager?
MBA is not required to be a good product manager. I think the skill sets are what people are looking at for you to be a good product manager, right? If MBA is giving you those skill sets, those business skill sets for being a product manager, so be it. But when organizations are hiring for a product manager, in 90% of the cases, we are not looking at degrees. We are not looking at having an MBA degree to be a product manager. It could help if you have an MBA degree, but then it's not a prerequisite at all. I have never seen job descriptions going out for hiring a product manager where MBA is sort of asked for, right? Having business knowledge is the key, but MBA is not something that is very required.
No, absolutely, I agree. That's really the requirement. So we can take another question before we move. I just want to take a few minutes to introduce the program. There's been some questions on the program also. One question that is there is like, how does the role of a product manager mature or change as a company goes through different stages of evolution and growth?
Absolutely, it changes. It changes a lot, because the kind of work that you changes a lot, right? When you're introducing a product, what you're trying to do is you're trying to identify a problem, you're trying to solve a problem, and you're getting validation from the market on the solution that you are building. Does it really solve a problem, right? That's in the introduction phase. What you're doing there, you're doing a lot of market research to identify problem areas, right? And if you already have a problem area, you're trying to synthesize that information, identify the kind of solutions that you are developing in that specific problem area. And that's what you do when you get into the growth stage. You're doing something different, right? Now you have introduced a market, you have introduced a product in the market. Now you're looking at getting customer feedback. You're looking at getting to a product market fit. You're getting to see that, does the product that you have developed really, is it solving a customer problem? If it is not, what new features can be developed in the product to actually solve this problem, right? How quickly can I pivot my product? What are the new features that I can develop so that I can customers start loving the product and it solves their business problem? And that changes if you go to a mature product. When a mature product, you are not worried about developing new features in a product. You are looking at customer delight. What other things can you do to actually ensure a customer is successful? That in that point, you're talking more to your customers, you're getting more feedback from your customers. And in a declining market, you're going back to doing market research to actually identifying problem areas and how you can pivot your product. What can you do to extend your product to different use cases, right? So definitely the role changes, and the skill sets required will also be a little different.
Yeah, it makes sense, Ramesh. So one more question is like, there are invariably questions about opportunities available in industry for product managers whenever we do this webinar. So So that's Raghu's point. So how do you see this changing in the next 4 or 5 years? I know we have more product managers today than we did 10 years back, right? Now, as the industry evolves, gets more into the move up the value chain, get more into products and startups and innovation and such. So I think the need will increase. What is your view? What's the need for product management in the next 4 to 5 years?
Absolutely right. I mean, this is a conversation that I always have, right? The need for product managers will evolve as we go up the value chain, right? 10, 15 years ago, we were looked at as a body shop, right? Because organizations could get skill sets, organizations could get work done. So the need for product managers was very less at that point in time. I remember the same conversation that we had like uh, 10 years ago in your office, Ramesh, where we discussed about where we have to evolve, we have to push, we have to move up the innovation cycle, right? As Hyderabad moved up on the innovation cycle, we started seeing the demand grow for product managers, right? So now we were doing end-to-end product development from India. And when we started doing end-to-end product development from India, that's where we saw the need of more product managers. And we struggled to hire product managers at that point in time. So yes, so as you move up the value chain, the amount of product managers required is going up, will go up. And as you see, every day there are more organizations coming to India doing end-to-end product development from India. As that happens, the need for product managers is starting to grow. I see large companies hiring product managers today, which was not the case. The Microsofts, the Googles, the Amazons of the world were not hiring product managers like 5 to 6 years before. But now you just look at any job portal, right? They're like hiring tons of product managers today. They are, I'm in a different forum where they're actually complaining about not getting enough product managers, and we are starting to design programs. Specifically, the program that Ramesh is going to talk about today basically came up because of an industry demand where people were complaining that I'm not getting enough product managers, right? So it's growing. It will continue to grow as newer organizations come to India, as organizations in India grow up the value chain, start developing end-to-end product development from India. It was never thought out before. 10 years before, we never could think that end-to-end product development could happen to India. And today, you see many products are conceptualized, designed, developed, and developed for world markets from India, and this will continue to be the case.
No, absolutely, Ramesh. I think that's bang on. We see, just even looking at the engagement with research, the kind of projects we were getting 5, 7 years back are very different from the kind of projects we are seeing today. A lot of it's around solutions. Earlier, they're very, very kind of exploratory in nature. Today, they're actually solutions companies are building today that needs the latest from AI or computer vision or data sciences or any of the emerging areas. And so we are happy that the government of India asked that such a program be created. We were thinking of it anyway, but we got the request from Ministry of IT, Government of India to do this program because they also saw a need as more and more technology products come into the market, software or hardware or both. And I think there's a need. This is one domain we are very big. We're very good on technology. We're very good in business. But product management is something that we don't have any major strength. Neither do programs help, like you rightly said, groom and create such kind of capabilities. And the nature of this is such, we expect, while we do have few people coming fresh out of their undergrad, but most of the people in the first batch, and we expect that in every batch, would be people with experience. So we have those from industry, either sponsored by companies or self-sponsored, and those from startups. In the first batch, we have nearly a 50-50 mix, one half from startups and one half from industry, and then a small number of fresh grads. We expect similar mix this time also. So we're looking forward because this is an experiment, and like we're very excited. It's a different mix of people in the batch, in the first batch, anywhere from 3-4 years to maybe 15, 20, almost 20 years experience, and a lot of peer learning that's happening. Very good energy. We don't see that normally in our regular classes because they're all fresh grads, undergrads or fresh grads in our PG programs. We don't see a lot of people with industry perspective, experience, and insights coming into any of our classes. So there's been something very nice that myself, Raghu, and others have been enjoying interacting with the batch. So we're looking forward to the same thing with the next batch. So anybody, the links are available. You can just check out on our website or just look for PDM, Product Design and Management, pdm.triplight.ac.in. and all the details are there. Looking forward to having more of you in the program. And Ramesh, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's busy day, prime time for you, that too evening time, taking time off your work and joining us, and of course helping us with the program also as a course faculty. But thank you for taking the time to do this webinar today. And thanks to all the participants. This is a very interesting, like I said, experiment for us to do this program. And we do believe it's going to help the industry, but we want to see it happen. And for that, more and more participation of the industry is required to make sure the course connects with the industry and can deliver the value. So looking forward to seeing you in the program. Ramesh, thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you. Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks a lot.